11?
11.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys.
We're wearing new shirts today, too, which is nice. You know, usually you're wearing some form of like a lifting shirt, and I think I'm usually wearing a Meadow sweatshirt. I've received numerous comments like, do you not wear, or do you wear that sweatshirt every day? So I was like, fuck.
Walmart, man. Repping for Walmart.
Now I gotta be conscious for not wearing that stuff every day. Alright, sorry.
That's hard. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Happy Asian Males. I'm Brandon Chin.
I'm Seibo Shen.
And this is episode 11. And we're going to talk about work, or just work, life, everything, harmony and balance.
Yeah.
Because from what Seibo was just telling me, he's been really focused on work a lot. And so tell me a little bit about a project or two that's kind of been pulling your attention and a lot of gravity.
Yeah. So for work, we're working on a lot of things. We had some employees leave. We have some new employees coming in. So we're dealing with that transition. You know, we don't have like an HR department or, you know, managers to like onboard or, you know, give people their exit package or whatever. So, you know, I'm stuck doing those things. And, you know, because since we are such a small company, I mean, you know, when 1 out of 12 people leaves, you know, that's like 8% of the company left, right? So it's
a lot of
different, right? Yeah. And you have relationships with these people, so it's not like someone just leaves and you're like, you know, well, have a good life. You know, you spent the last couple of years with this guy, watch him grow, and you know, it's emotional watching people leave like that. So been dealing with that, and also just designing a whole lot of new products that are going to augment our existing vaporizer, make it funner to use, make it, you know, easier and more convenient to put away, different things like that. So just really been focused on creating a lot of this stuff, and you know, I think that I haven't been working out as much. I just started noticing, just, you know, when I haven't been working out, I haven't been sleeping, and when you're not sleeping and you're not well rested, you know, your work suffers. So, you know, I could just kind of start recognizing that I'm pulling myself out of like a good balance of, you know, working, physical exercise, you know, eating right, all of those things.
So tell me a little bit about, like, does people leaving, you know, that emotional thing, does that, like, how much of that takes, how much energy does that take when you're trying to, like, replace employees, or, like, you know?
You know, that's a really good question. I mean, this particular...
I've never had to do that before, because you know?
Yeah, this one was really weird because this particular employee, like, his dad used to be my boss at another job. So when he came to work for our company, he was actually his dad has since passed away to pancreatic cancer. And interestingly enough I was really close to his dad, and I wanted to, you know, send my condolences to the family, but at that time, they had never met me, and I was just kind of like a stranger, right? So a few years ago, his son kind of walks into my life, and he's looking for some direction on life, and ultimately, he's a smart, talented individual, and we ended up, you know, first it was me just mentoring him, and then ultimately it became me hiring him and him working for our company, and, you know, he was great at representing, you know, our brand and our company, and, you know, we're sad to see him go. I mean, he's going to go on to study computer engineering, so he's going to start programming software. So,
right on.
You know, I'm never mad at someone for pursuing whatever they think they need to pursue, you know, and it was good to have him there. But for me, you know, like, you know, when you get used to seeing someone consistently and you don't see them anymore, you know, it is
it's strange. It's like a vacuum, you know.
Totally.
I wanted you to go back to, we were having a conversation earlier about work-life balance, and there's also, what we were talking about is that maybe there's not enough work being done, especially like in, I would say, I don't want to say generation, but just, you know, like a particular section of younger people. And I've definitely been there. I think it's a mindset. I don't think it's like a...
No, I don't think it's a generational thing. Yeah,
it's a developmental thing, right? Yeah. Where, like, I would say that this mindset, or this particular type of mindset, isn't open to, like you were saying, criticism and also thinks that they're doing more than they are.
Yeah.
There's no objective feedback coming from an outside source. The only, like how in like cartoons or TV shows they have like the devil and then the angel. It's like this person is only consulting these two, devil and angel, inside of them, and not actual other people who are like, oh, well, this is what I see.
Yeah.
Because I actually had to evaluate an intern this morning at her gym because she's our first intern, and I was like, oh, this is what it's like to really be critical and think, how can we give her an opportunity to grow?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I started to think, man, maybe I need to get evaluated. Maybe I need to have someone tell me like, some of my loose ends that like, that I'm really ready to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, what's interesting is, I think me and you are the type of people to try to not judge people, by appearance or things like that. But, the fact of the matter is, like, it's kind of like a survival skill, being able to quickly judge someone and figure out, is this a person that I could work with? Is this someone that's going to succeed in this role? And, I like to think of myself as not a judgmental person, but because I am responsible for pretty much all the hiring, I'm constantly put in a position where we have to judge. And I think we had talked about work-life balance, but there's a balance of understanding who you are versus how others perceive you too, right? And I always tell people, like, you have to be yourself. Be yourself, but you don't want to, whatever it is that you're doing, to infringe on others too, right? So there is also a balance on, I guess, quote unquote, being yourself, right? Without kind of overextending. And we were talking about earlier about vocabulary and definitions of words and making sure that people
use the same words.
Yeah. It's like, one of them was last week we talked about depression. And then we realized we all kind of had slightly different, like, we kind of know what the clinical definition of depression is.
Like the gist of it, but we don't know what specific definition we are agreeing on.
Right. Or if someone says, okay, here's like a really good example of like why things should be defined. It's, so my wife and I, we went to go see a therapist, and, as we're talking to her, like, she's actually, like, saying, like, how healthy, like, our relationship is, and, like, how we explain these things. And, what we kind of came to realize was, like, even our own definition of, like, what we thought, like, a healthy relationship was incorrect. We're having a therapist, like, actually say, no, you guys, like, actually communicate quite a bit. And, coming in for this help is, like, I haven't seen, like, a couple come in, like, that's in the place that you guys are, thinking that you guys need help, so it was just kind of interesting, and it was like kind of reaffirming, like, that like we are on the right path. But it did like really just, that was another clear example of like, how could we have thought like these things were so like wrong when and I think it was obvious. It's like, well, you watch movies, you see like people say like, oh, like you see like a senior citizen couple and the wife goes, oh, when I see John, like, my heart still flutters the same way when we were teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And the therapist was just like, that's fucking bullshit,
It's like a myth. It's totally a myth.
Yeah, you may find someone, or she was just like, that could have just been the producer of the show just telling them to say something for like a good TV moment. But
you fake that. Humans can lie. It's called acting,
And her point was kind of like, dude, just imagine like, like eating the same rice every day. It's like, it's still good and it's still, it gives you nourishment, but you wouldn't be like, oh my God, this rice tastes so amazing, on your 1000th day. And she was kind of like, yeah, relationships kind of like, the excitement. Once that's gone, then you really see like what it's built on, because the excitement is kind of like I guess almost like a chemical thing that's being released in the early stages of a relationship, right? And after those things are gone, then your relationship needs to stand on, the foundation of it, whatever that is.
Well, maybe we take this in a different direction now. Like, we're talking about work-life balance, like life balance too. It has to do with relationships. There's an author.
Keep going. I'll lock the door here.
There's an author named Esther Perel, and she talks about. She has a book called Mating in Captivity, and she talks about how we're taught in our society and culture to that closeness and intimacy is the only answer to like a couple's sex life. Like, oh, we don't have enough, or he wants too much, or I want it. It's like there's not that want of it. But she says that mystery is what creates that. Like, meaning like you have to step away from someone and almost kind of not know things about them. And you can do that, she argues you need to do it deliberately in a long-term relationship.
Interesting.
That distance is what creates that. The distance, mystery is desire, closeness and intimacy. But we're fed that, oh, as long as you guys are close and tell everyone everything, tell your partner everything. It's like, no, actually that's a very bad strategy, because when they're like, now I'm stuck with that info, there's no mystery, right? You know, like, so having other people, like, basically other friends, you know, to like spend time with, or, you know, like trying something new, that they building a surprise for that person.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I agree with that. You know, that makes a lot of logical sense to me.
But we don't say that. It's weird. We put all this pressure onto one person to make us happy for relationship stuff.
Yeah, and you know, I think balance is a really good topic, because almost everything relates to it. And you know, one of the things that that she said that we could work on is just communicating better. You know, and you know, we talked about that last week, about how hard it is for Asians to like communicate about like certain difficult topics. And you know, it's so simple, but you know, like one of the things was, you know, I had always thought, like when I traveled, that watching the kids by herself was like such a huge burden, you know, and that I needed to get back so that I could offload some of the workload from her. And then what I realized was, well, she said that it's not that big of a workload, and like, you know, I don't need to trip, you know. And I was just like, you know, and you know, I was like, well, I felt like it was implied. And then you know, the therapist was like, well, you know, what did she say or do that made you think that? And you know, I was just like, well, she'll say like it's hard to take care of the kids, and then you know,
yeah, that's pretty cool. That sounds pretty clear. Like,
yeah, and then but it's not in the context of it's overwhelming. It's just, well, kids they drain your energy, you know, and you watch them. Like, that's just...
It could be a momentary thing, like, yeah, it's hard, I'm tired.
Yeah. So I just kind of extrapolated that into thinking, like, I need to, you know, once I'm done with work, like, I need to be back as soon as possible, you know? But now that we actually kind of talked it out, it's not that I'm just going to leave and not come back until I feel like it, but, you know, I won't feel like the need, like, all right, well, I've been out here vaping all day with people that I want to meet, and feeling guilty, like, you know, I got to get home and take care of the kids, you know.
Guilt is such an interesting thing when in relationships, like, what we feel guilty, I would argue, half of the time is our own self-imposed beliefs about what's supposed to happen.
Well, exactly.
And then we confirm, it's like, oh wow, you know, like, I'll give you an example of something I felt guilty, like, a person that I'm seeing, like, romantically, like, I didn't answer her text message for, like, a day and a half. Because I saw it, but then I was like, oh, crap, like, I forgot to respond to it, and, you know, when we had a long conversation about it, because she's like, I just need a higher level of connection. I was like, what does that mean? Like, and I was like, I felt this impingement on my freedom, and what she really meant was just give me an emoji to let me know that you read it. I know you're busy, you know, after a long roundabout conversation. But it was a good one, because I was like, you know what, I'm not going to shy away from this, like, you know, I'm going to step in and say, okay, how can I make this better?
It's funny, because you got a text from me that said, hey, sorry, I took so long to text you back. It was kind of like the same topic, except, and then you were like, don't worry, I don't ever take offense to, and you know, what's interesting, it's like, you don't take offense to someone taking time to text you back, so you probably you don't think,
they'll take offense to it. That's when it's like, and I was like, oh, shit, I feel guilty because I'm like a bad communicator. It's like, you know what? We just have to work out the rules for each person. Yeah. Each relationship has it's like a game, right? And I was like, I'm playing multiple video games, and they're all, it's like Contra versus Street Fighter, both video games, but they're very different rules.
Yeah.
Both fun, both challenging, but
Yeah.
very different rules,
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting or a very salient point, which is each relationship is different. We could just say we treat everyone the same, and we all know that's kind of a lie, but we're going to try to treat everyone with kindness, but each relationship is really different. I think that what was my whole point of like the different relationships? Oh, is that, and even throughout the course of a lifetime, like my best friend is this guy. He lives in Oakland. His name's Eric. We probably only see each other like just 2 or 3 times a year now. And it's kind of weird being 40 years old and calling someone like my best friend or whatever. But it's changed from like when we were in middle school, we hung out every day, till like in college, we still like saw each other like on the weekends, till like once we started having families, then we would just see each other a few times a year. But it's still like the relationship has evolved, but the tightness hasn't, which is I think kind of cool, and something that I don't know. I think a lot of people always want to keep their relationships like, well, this has been a long time since it's happened to me, but I do remember like, like when I had a long-term girlfriend, like there were a few of my friends that would be upset that we couldn't hang out as much anymore,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was always like, man, that is kind of weird to think like, this guy's like more high maintenance than my girlfriend,
Oh yeah, like it's weird balancing like incoming people into life and then people you want to keep around, and like to me in my brain, like I have friends that I'll always share memories with growing up, but I don't want to hang out with them all the time. I'd like to see them. I'm okay seeing them once or twice a year. There are going to be people that I need to see more often than not because of the phase of life I'm in.
That's a good point.
Phase
of life.
But also too, like I don't want to go into too many tangents, but I do remember when I was younger, I would be relationship Brandon, and when I would get into a romantic one, I would be like, oh, okay. I would kind of unbalance and put all that energy into a romantic one and forget about my friends. Now I'm much more cautious about that and judicious about, I'm not going to jump into anything. I'm going to keep my boundaries a lot longer because it keeps more mystery. So it keeps a little bit, not want to say drag out the honeymoon phase, but like leave some mystery there and keep my friends still close.
So have you done that with someone that you really, really liked? Because I think that strategy is easy to do with some girl that like, you kind of like, but you're not like head over heels with, right? So it's easy to kind of play it cool and kind of keep, some things mysterious.
That is true. Being head over heels really takes away that ability to judge. But then I think as we get older, we don't kind of jump into that as readily either.
Yeah.
There's a lot more reservations about that. Maybe that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know.
Well, I think it's like if you balance. Well, I think experience and intelligence like helps you make better decisions, right? So I think that all of our love lives, if we're intelligent, we will kind of look back at like each one and kind of see like, all right, this was good until I made this mistake, or this was good until she did that, and then you kind of like, it's like you said early on, you just gave too much of yourself, so now you're experimenting with having some boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, we were talking about like rules and like what should be followed and not followed, and then why I asked you like, have you been able to practice this on someone that you're just like head over heels with, is that I do think all of these are individual, so if you do meet the right person where you feel like just like exposing all your secrets, then maybe that's the right thing to do with that person, because you do feel vulnerable and open enough to, and it's like, okay, so I don't want to keep talking about your current relationship, but, like, she wanted that from you to just understand on her part, so, and then, I guess.
I think it was a reasonable thing though to expect. Like, hey, just within 24 hours, just let me know you got this message.
Yeah.
Have you heard the expression when you leave somebody on read or read?
No, but I know what it means based on context. So it's like, they read it, but they haven't responded.
Apparently, like, I guess iPhones have it where you can see, like, this app called WhatsApp, which is kind of like a chat program on phones, lets you know when it's received and when the person has seen it.
Yeah.
I think Instagram does that too, but that's an interesting thing with communication. Like, I forget some people, like I'll just see something, I'm like, okay, but I'll be like, oh, they don't know that I've read this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not totally accurate because, like if you just happen to, just push on it and then the notification goes away, but you haven't fully read it.
Let's go in this direction. I have a extremely hard time balancing the level of incoming messages I have. I feel very unbalanced, unlike all the social media and personal and business stuff. I'm just gonna put that out there.
I turned off my notifications.
Really?
And now that I'm in some WeChat group, I have to turn off the notifications for WeChat. But I've turned off notifications for Facebook, Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I obviously still get them for text messages, but pretty much I turned on all. It was distracting. I mean, we would be shooting these things, and then I would be seeing all these notifications on my phone, and trying to pay attention to a conversation, and go, "Whoa, there's an emergency." Oh wait, it's not an emergency. I just thought it was, and then that's 10 seconds of not listening.
And I feel like for humans, because we like communication, very quick. We're built to respond quickly to signals. Like in baseball, how the umpires or the coaches and the baseball players, they'll do the crazy signals. I feel like that's how we communicate so fast, and we think that these messages are emergencies. Like, hey, this is get your attention. And you're like, oh yeah. And sometimes it drains you. I'm like, oh, fuck. Even the people that I want to get back to, the people closest to me, I'm like, dude, I don't even have the energy to do that. And I'm just like that. I don't know how to balance that still.
No, I mean, I love technology. It's my favorite shit. But honestly, I think that a lot of my own imbalance is the addiction to this phone. I've been making a concerted effort probably over the last 3 months of only using my phone in the evenings for work stuff. Well, one thing is I think my wife and I, we communicate more because of my head's not in the phone as often, and just in general being more attentive to all the funny shit my kids are doing. Even getting a notification and looking down, all that shit is super distracting, and I think that if we just go back to the theme of balance, that is probably the one place that all of us are extremely imbalanced on is.
Because this is a new technology, right? It's hard to, because it keeps improving faster than the rate that our biology can, kind of adapt to it.
Yeah.
Or there are ways that our biology copes with it. I think it's dissociation. Because I hit these spots where I'm it's no longer a hit to want to even get into the phone. Or I'm just dude, I want to throw it.
It's all the dopamine release from the phone's gone.
It's done. Do you ever remember when you were younger, if you roll on E and then you try to take it the next day and you're just it is not the same, man. You're expecting the same and then you're
yep, the reservoir is tapped.
Yeah, so I don't know, even how I'm still having a lot of trouble with that. But reading when my reservoir is tapped, I just know I'm just kind of okay.
Well, I think it's the default of a lot of people's downtime, right? If you just finish everything you do, then you go to the phone. If you're waiting in line,
you can watch funny
videos. You go to the phone. Yeah, if I have to take a crap and I forget the phone, I'll go back to the room. I get the phone.
Me too.
Yeah, and there have even been times where, not if someone rings the doorbell, but if I'm in the the 4th floor of our building, and I have to go downstairs to get someone, then I'll go back and get my phone so I could like look at something in the elevator. You know? I'm just like, what the fuck, you know? That's, you know, and then I justified it to myself like, oh, what this guy's saying on the podcast is just so engaging that any chance I got to listen to it, I would, you know, but I still just thought, well, it's still the phone. You know, the phone is the center of all these reasons. And
it's so weird. Yeah, our entertainment and our work is meshed into one common item.
Yeah, and our social, right?
And our social. Yeah, because like you'll be working out a plan like to go see like an old friend or a current friend, and then something pings you like, dude, something happened with like, you know, one of your products, like the shipment's not going to make it. And you're like, okay, and you deal with this, but you're trying to do something fun, and then like you're in the middle of, you know what I mean? It's so weird that this item holds so much potential, and yet it feels very restrictive.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to hate listening to people complain about technology because I'm like, look how much you guys love it and how much it's added, but it's just as far as like myself goes, like, I mean, a good example is I was supposed to cut and paste the email address to Slack back to someone, and then I noticed like a few tabs were blinking that was like letting me know I had notifications, and then by the time I got done addressing those notifications, I'm like watching a breakdancing video on YouTube, and the only reason that I remember that I'm supposed to give someone an email address is because in the comments I'm cut and pasting something, and then I'm expecting like some comment to happen, but it's the guy's email address. I'm like, oh shit, you know, I was supposed to get this, you know, and that's when I started turning all the notifications off on my phone and on my desktop computer, you know, because I was just like, this stuff is like super duper distracting, and I think I'm someone that's prone to like to jump and do lots of different things anyways.
Me
so too. Yeah, having that was, you know, now I'm starting to really like, I mean, I haven't verbalized this, I just kind of thought about it, but as I'm verbalizing, I'm like, yeah, you know, this really is, you know, I think something that, you know, if we talk about our topic of the day with balance, you know, it's probably something that we really need to start, you know, thinking about more. And how often we're on these phones. I mean, I went from like a 5 gig plan to a 10 gig plan to an unlimited gig plan, you know, just like, I mean, that shows you, right, how much more we're using it. So, I mean, I like it. I just don't want to be like so easily distracted by it, you know?
I wonder too how much that affects our ability to focus on long duration, like repetitive tasks. Like, does it help us?
Or even long duration focus. You know, it doesn't even have to be repetitive, just something that requires your focus the whole time.
Yeah, and it may not be like stimulating, you know, but we still need to be engaged, like, yeah, like things like paperwork, you know, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm just thinking now, like, the things that I justify using a phone. Like, even when I'm working out, I'm like, oh, my workout program is on my phone, but there is a sheet of paper that also has it.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to use that piece of paper instead of my phone because it super pulls me out. But then all my good music is on my phone, and I'm like, oh, but I'll listen to my. And actually, turning my phone off into airplane mode when I'm working out helps me ease the anxiety of not having my phone, which is already crazy.
Yeah.
But I think people can relate. But also, I don't feel the burden of having to check everything.
Yeah, well, I feel like, well, you want all these things to enable all those things, right? Because there's a lot of great things. The music, not having to write on a piece of paper, always having it with you. But once, like for me, it was disabling, right? In that I was supposed to do a task. I saw some stuff flashing. Yeah. I addressed it, then forgot to finish my task.
Yeah, you know? Finishing the task.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why, I mean, airplane mode is cool. Disabling notifications, I think, well, at least you could still get phone calls, you know, in case there's an emergency. But, you know, I think those are all great ways. And, you know, not to pivot from, like, the cell phone stuff, but I think, I mean, you train a lot of people that are highly imbalanced, right? So I think you're really, you know, primed to talk about, like, what you see. I mean, what are, like, the most common ways people come in imbalanced, you know, either physically or emotionally that you have to deal with?
You know, that's a good question. They have, I think now I'm thinking about it, it's called vigilant stress. Our body doesn't. What I mean by that, let me explain, is our bodies are still used to reacting. Like if it knows we're inside of a cave and there's like a lion or something lurking outside, we're vigilant. We're like, but now being on a computer, knowing that there's deadlines, our body still has that same fight or flight reaction to it until there's some completion or there's closure to that. And our bodies don't know the difference. So there are people coming with a lot of vigilant stress that they don't even have a word or an intelligible answer for. They're just like, I don't know. I'm like, I can see it. It affects your ability to do something physical. Yeah. All those things add up. Like, it's been said that our nervous system is like a bucket, and the stress of the world is like water. It can only handle so much before it has to pour it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And these things the people like, their physical body can move around and has lots of energy, but their brain, their nervous system, their cognitive functions are stopping them from overusing energy as a survival mechanism.
Got it.
So
people always think you use physical energy, but they're not understanding like the stress and that stuff. The mental energy is also tapping the rest. So is that right?
Yeah, there's only like a 1.5 grams of like available glycogen for our brain, which is a really small amount, and it gets depleted very quickly. And it takes our body time to, break down the sugar, put it back in and replace it. It literally requires rest.
So when you drain that glycogen, is that when you feel like brain dead, or?
Yeah, when you walk in, you're like, have you ever when you're just like, man, that meeting that flight took it out of me.
Yeah, totally.
And if you're not aware that someone's like, yeah, flight makes me feel uncomfortable, they're probably having a fight or flight reaction for that whole time.
They're anxious in the air.
They're drained because they're like paying attention, and then combine that with phone, combine that with kids yanking on you, combine that with strangers at the airport, combine that with the airline not giving a fuck about you.
Oh, man.
And I'm not trying to say that our world is so difficult and hard. It's not physically dangerous. It's mentally dangerous to us.
Yeah.
Even though it's so safe. But people are still really stressed out.
I think if people started really thinking of like mental energy as like a resource, I knew that my brain could be drained, obviously, but I didn't really kind of think of it as like the same energy source that like my body is tapping into, right? One is kind of like physical and one is mental, but you're right. I mean, they're all connected. So if this is tired, this gets tired, and if this is tired, this,
And there's a good book called Squat Every Day by Matt Perryman, and it goes into what we think of stress, like of how we process exercise stress. And he even talks about if you're an introvert or an extrovert, you're going to experience the stress of a social situation very differently. And so you'll experience exercise stress very differently. Because what if you're in a crowded gym at, say, 24-hour fitness, and you hate people? You just don't want to, you're an introvert. It's going to suck so bad, combined with maybe you're already not in shape. It's going to be so demotivating. Versus say someone who's like, dude, I'm all about stimulus seeking, or what he calls a low reactor. Like you can be in the middle of a club, at music blaring, and fall asleep. I'm a low reactor. I fell asleep on the Vegas Strip. That's what I found out. I didn't be like, I don't care. But some people are like, I can't sleep unless I'm in my home. That's called a high reactor. They don't feel safe anywhere.
Got it.
So they combine that, temperament and your personality, and then when people are like, oh man, I just couldn't get these squats or deadlifts done. It's like, dude, because the world is rocking you, stress-wise. It's taking all your energy. It's no surprise you can't show up to the gym.
So what do you do with these people that are in that state of mind? I mean, I would imagine it's almost everyone, right?
So this is what Tony and I have a discussion about all the time. We call it reset and restore. So we try to find ways to... The one easy thing is your body is the same as your mind. And, well, I'm not going to say that factually, but if you release some muscles, it'll let some stress out too.
Yeah.
So actually doing some foam rolling, some stretching may be healthier for your mind and may leave you more energized than...
Man. Hey, what's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm Brandon.
What's up, Brandon? I'm Mike.
Hey, Mike. Nice to meet you. I'm going to come shake your hand.
Videos. Here you go, my friend. Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
You too. I don't know what you got one day.
We will, absolutely.
Oh, did
I think
Well,
there's
we're
30
already
of them
on.
in there.
Thanks.
Or 20. Thank you. So, yeah, I'll try to snap some photos like on a white background or something.
Okay.
I just want like,
Loading. I'll try to take some from my side too, but it's like I just need somebody to hold it.
okay,
Yeah, but see what we come up with.
okay, cool,
Central image.
cool. Thanks.
Sweet. Thank you guys.
Yep,
Have at it.
we will. Nice to meet you, Mike.
You too.
Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Yep. That was so weird. I was for sure that was coming.
I thought that was too. I was like, that is fun stranger.
Oh, that was hilarious. Well, it's never a dull day here. As you could see, random people walk in. The door's unlocked. Good thing I don't give out my address. It's always funny when my mom and dad walk in. Actually, that was one of the things that was interesting. The therapist was like, "You're okay with like your mom and dad barging in?" And I was like, "Yeah." I got at least an hour or two of like someone watching the kids. And she's like, "That's a good way of looking at it." Yeah, I was like, "Well, I mean, this is my mom and dad. Like, how mad could I be? They just want to see their kid." No, Dad.
I know, they just want to see, yeah, like,
I mean, yeah, I would appreciate if they called, but you know, they always bring like food and shit. So
yeah, appreciating the people that help bring balance to our life, which is our family, you know, like, and I realize not everyone gets to be good or sorry, close or cool with their chosen family, but if you have one, and that's awesome. But plenty of people make it work.
you know, it's an interesting observation for me. I don't know if you've observed this, but I feel like, and I know this also happens in other races. I just think it's like a few notches up for Asians. Is that like Asian kids? I think they're so used to like getting constantly nagged by their parents that even when you see them as like 30-year-olds and then their parents come, it almost looks like they like devolve into the teenage
Like,
self.
God!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'll be watching, I was like, your mom's not even saying anything aggressive and you're acting like a little fucking brat right now.
I definitely used to be more reactive when I was younger. I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to hear that. But now I'm like, oh, I totally understand the gesture. Which
Yeah,
is they just care about it. They just want to, you know, I'm crazy to my family. So when I'm doing things that seem sane, like, you know, making a living, they're like, keep doing what you're doing. Don't not do that. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna interpret that as love.
Yeah. Well, they always like I started realizing like my dad always telling me to go to business school was just like his way of like trying to like drum up like small talk with me, you know.
Which is hard. Like if your parents like at what point do you become your child's friend again?
Yeah.
You know, because there's a period where it's like, okay, we're good. Like, you know, we can drop the. Oh, I don't want to say drop, but it maybe needs to transition because eventually it's going to be the other way where the younger kid is going to take care of the parent at some point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've really discovered with my daughter is that, like, you always think of, like, adults as being smarter than kids, but I think, and I don't know if we talked about this, but I think that the only real difference in intelligence is that you just have more like life experience to contextualize whatever it is that you saw. You know, but their ability to kind of just observe something and think that's odd or that's cool, you know, is just as good as yours. You know,
to it.
Yeah. They just might not have like the experience like, okay, when they meet a nice person that, oh, this just might be a charming, shady person, you know, but they could kind of go like, oh, he's well spoken, you know, he's articulate, he's funny, you know. And what was the point of this story again?
Balance.
Okay, parents, balance.
Barging in.
This.
Don't give much address.
Don't give it out my address, Jesus. Why did I just blank in the middle of a story? See, we should have had me smoke some weed before this podcast. My spinach is wearing off, is what I think.
Oh, your Popeye spinach?
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's so funny. It kind of helps like bring you into your zone. Oh, we're talking about getting easily distracted. Case in point.
Easily distracted. Okay, I was talking about the parents, right? And then my dad.
Business school, small talk.
Business school, small talk. Man, I can't even remember the story I was telling right now because I was remembering so hard the other stuff.
I can't either.
Well, people, as you could see, we are not the most well planned, but sometimes that's the way the show goes. And what's really interesting is we're going to have Tony come by a little bit later, and Tony is also, I think, someone that has a lot of good insight on, living a balanced lifestyle.
We were talking about what do you do with people who come in with a bunch of imbalances?
Oh, right. Okay, imbalances. And then, okay, I remember that part.
So what do you do?
And then the vigilant
stress.
The vigilant stress, realizing that.
Just foam rolling and stretching and calming down your nervous system is often actually like bringing them to neutral. And then they're like, oh, I'm now in the mood to expend some energy. But when their body's like, we don't know what's happening, just bringing it down a notch is enough to make them, like a lot of people think, oh, I just need more motivation. You're just like, you already have that motivation there, but your environment is drawing that energy from you.
Yeah.
We need to stop that, draw a boundary, and that oftentimes is a fun, like, oh my God, I have, like CEOs, they always have things going on that if maybe they turn their head for 30 minutes, it could go to shit. You don't know that. And I can't be the person to say, just stop it. But we have to know that about them on a personal level, like what triggers them.
So one of the things that I hear the most often is people say, I have like anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought, okay, you could just exercise, maybe work out some of that anxiety. But I know people that like work out like crazy and still have anxiety. Then I'm like, maybe try meditating or something. Like, and I often think like, when my wife was having a ton of trouble sleeping, she was watching and reading like tons of politics, right? And it was like reading all this doom and gloom stuff was like affecting her sleep to the point where she realized like she just can't like read this stuff every day. It's just too much for her. Whereas I could read it and I'm like, all right, well, that really sucks, but I kind of live in a privileged neighborhood. Like my life day to day will probably be the same, and I can like compartmentalize. Go, okay, there's some shitty stuff happening.
Compartmentalize.
I read it, and then she was just gonna say, well, that's you. You could do it. And then so I'm always wondering, well, like, all right, that's like kind of like a way of making sure that I'm not getting mentally drained by this stuff, right? I could
filter.
I could read about it. I could understand what's going on. But I'm not going to allow any more kind of like mental energy to be sucked by that thing. So is there a way for, other people, like, I mean, I can't teach someone to just don't think about it anymore. Because it's like, well, if you tell me not to think about it, that's all I think about, right?
You're right. If I say don't think about a pink elephant, you're going to automatically think about a pink elephant. So knowing your mind's tendencies, if you want to talk to yourself, tell yourself to do things in positive ways, meaning like, say, avoid thinking about something rather than don't think about it. It doesn't respond to do not. Your brain just doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So when I say like, oh, if I want someone to stop moving their knees, I say, move your hips more and keep your knees still. And they're like, oh, okay, but if I say don't move your knees, they're going to automatically think about their knees and try to do some weird compensatory thing. So it's weird. It's like understanding how to train a human being is an odd thing to be able to watch on a day-to-day basis. You start seeing tendencies, and what oftentimes is people's beliefs about something are what are more harmful. Their thoughts about something than the actual thing. Like when people, they think exercise is supposed to be hard all the time. Not the case. You can moderate it, but they're like, it's supposed to, and when it doesn't match that experience, they get anxiety about it. They're like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm like, no, you're doing it right. You're okay. And like, but I'm doing it. The magazines, the websites, all these things, and they don't think about the filters they need for that information.
Yeah,
and that's a lot. You have to work with someone on a long-term basis to know that. But the way people work up with personal trainers, like they're like, oh, well, I have these 10 pounds of fat. I'd like you to help me remove it. Burn it, chop it, whatever you need to do. Treat me like Frankenstein. Doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Our psychology is the number one gateway towards having a healthy physiology.
So,
meaning balance.
So are these concepts you came up with yourself, or someone else taught them to you, or like I don't hear other trainers?
This is for me studying so many different other practices of life and bringing it to my craft, which is to help people build muscle and deal with discomfort on a psychological and physical level.
Yeah.
How do you convince and motivate someone to literally tear their flesh apart from the inside? You know, using weights.
Yeah. I often think like, are you? I think maybe as humans we're just supposed to feel like directionless for the first 30 years of our life.
Yeah.
You know, because I was thinking, you know, what gives you
too.
balance is knowing what imbalance is, right?
Being so off.
Yeah. And I often, I mean, it was, I think we were discussing, like it was either Nietzsche or Jung that was talking about, like you need to explore your darkest side if you want to be like benevolent, you know, because being benevolent isn't about like just doing all the right things and being naive about it. It's doing the right things and also knowing all the deepest, darkest bad shit that you could do.
I'll give you an example of knowing the darker side, but going through like my phase of entitlement in my early 20s. Probably starting from my late teens to my mid 20s. And it was fitness that really threw the wrench in that thinking, because there's no way you can cheat lifting weights. You just can't. It is the ultimate test. Like 300 pounds is going to be 300 pounds.
Yeah. I could bench 225. Show me.
Show me, and my shoulder hurts. Yeah. Oh, well, you know, and then it's like, fine, okay. But I had to put in a bunch of work and not think that I was entitled. Even genetics doesn't promise you anything in weightlifting, which is why it was so scary to me, but also attractive, because it was a life lesson. But being in entitlement, I didn't want to do these things. I thought I was better. I could just do gymnastics and get what I wanted. Or, you know, I'm a cerebral person. I don't do that. I'm not a bro. I want muscles. I want to be sexy. That was such a huge lie to myself. But I wasn't willing to do what it took.
Yeah.
I was entitled. I was like, I deserve these things, but I don't want to do, what it takes. I don't want to make weird faces. I don't want to look stupid in front of people.
Yeah. So, okay. So I think we're about 30 minutes in. So let's just end this one and let's pick up on the entitlement and how you got over that, because I think that's an important... I think a lot of people get to that part where they're like, all right, I'm starting to realize, maybe I am entitled, or I'm not putting in the hard work, and I'm not going to reap the benefits, and ultimately kind of what pushed you over that. So thanks for watching this episode. I know it ran a few minutes long, but we'll be back with Tony Irwin for part 2 of
Episode 11.
Episode 11. Thank you.
He doesn't have a spinach. We
apologize. I'm going to bring my spinach back for this episode, so you guys will see it very soon. All right.